There was a time when bringing Doom back felt like a terrible idea, because the original Doom is a foundational game. It did essentially birth the first-person shooter genre, regardless of whether it was the first one or not, and is honestly still a pretty great game to play to this day. So trying to revive it in the modern 2016 AAA space felt risky, especially when first-person shooters had largely become either hyper-realistic military shooters or ability-heavy hero games. And early on, things weren't looking good. Doom 3 was not great, and Doom 4 was cancelled. The early footage for Doom 2016 looked generic and slow. Pretty much exactly everything that Doom wasn't. It seemed like the kind of revival that has the name of something great, but doesn't understand why it was great in the first place. And then, Doom 2016 was released, and it proved that point exactly wrong. It was really, really good. It reminded people what first-person shooters felt like before they became obsessed with realism, reloading, and cover mechanics. And more importantly, it didn't stop there. Now, across 3 games, Doom, Doom Eternal, and Doom the Dark Ages, id Software has built one of the most confident and mechanically focused trilogies modern gaming has ever seen. And today I want to discuss those 3 titles. Each one has their strengths and weaknesses, but at the end of the day, I love them all. And I think that even at their worst, they are leagues above most big budget games we get today. So let's discuss modern gaming's greatest revival, the modern Doom trilogy, starting with where it started, Doom 2016. Doom 2016 is great, and it succeeds for a very simple reason. It knows how to make a shooter feel good to play. Playing it nowadays, I do truly feel that Eternal and the Dark Ages really built on its systems to make something faster and honestly better, but taken completely by itself and in the context of when it came out, it is still great. The most important part of Doom's design is how it makes the player play aggressively. In order to survive, you need to be aggressive. And this one design principle is reflected in so many different things in the game. It's really where Doom 2016 succeeded. First of all, the most notable mechanic, glory kills. For those who are unaware, after dealing a certain amount of damage to an enemy and getting within a close enough range, pressing a button will perform a quick finisher on the enemy that, first of all, looks super badass, but most importantly also drops health. So whereas many shooters would say when you're low on health, it's time to hide behind cover and slowly wait for your health to regenerate or find a medkit or something, Doom says when your health is low, that's all the more reason to keep on shooting. It seems like such a simple idea now that it's been 10 years since they did it, but it really was such a great idea to make the game feel more fun. This is the most important one, but all the other mechanics also come together to create a constant sense of momentum throughout combat. Ammo can be pretty limited, but is quickly replenished by finding more throughout the battlefield, encouraging players to always be moving. There's no reloading, no stamina, no leaning or aiming down sights. It basically strips away a lot of normal FPS conventions that in a game like this would really only slow the player down. Almost like the original Doom once again, before any of the staple FPS mechanics were even a thing. Which makes it all the more iconic that Doom was the series to do this. Mechanically, I think Doom 2016 is perfect. It knew exactly how it wanted the player to feel while playing. And while future games may have tweaked some things to improve this feeling, all the big important ideas were created by this game. The second important design principle of Doom 2016 is the power fantasy of it all. From the very beginning, once you understand the Doomslayer lore and really just how powerful the character you are playing as is, nothing will hype you up more than that first cutscene. You play as a nearly unstoppable, almost godlike warrior, and this could have very easily made the game boring or imbalanced. But as I said before, I think it does a great job of being fun while also letting you feel powerful. In the gameplay, this is further reinforced through a lot of things. Like, yes, glory kills are mainly a resource system to regain health, but damn, if a little part of you doesn't get a kick out of the brutal animations, then something must be wrong. Even just all the other animations in this game, the way you move in cutscenes or interact with the world. Like, yes, there is a story in this game, but it knows its place. The Doomslayer isn't isn't very interested in lore dumps, and neither are you. The scenes where he pushes monitors away or just punches and breaks them are funny, but it's also telling you what the story is meant to do: support the action and power fantasy, not interrupt it. And of course, there's also the awesome soundtrack. Something that I think was always an important part of Doom, but that maybe wasn't always recognized. But it is definitely an important part of this game, once again reinforcing the power and action. It even reacts to how you play. Shout out to Mick Gordon, he did a great job on this one. When you're doing well, the music gets louder, faster, more aggressive, reinforcing when you're playing successfully, and it really makes every encounter feel that much more intense. So, Doom 2016 looked closely at all of the shooters of the past decade or so, and decided to do its own thing, which obviously could have gone extremely wrong if it was done in a poor way. A lot of those fundamental FPS mechanics are there because they're good, so it took a great deal of creativity to make a game without them just as good. And needless to say, Doom 2016 definitely managed that. It took away a lot of the mechanics that everyone just expected for an FPS to create a more fun gameplay loop. And it turns out that is exactly what everyone was missing. If Doom 2016 was about rediscovering the joy of movement and aggression in FPS games, Doom Eternal is about mastery. And just like the game before it, this is another big risk for the developers, because Doom 2016 was really good. The easy path would have just been to redo that once again. Add more guns, more enemies, the easy sequel route, basically. Doom Eternal, well, did kinda do those things, but it managed to change things enough that it feels like a very different, and honestly very better game to play. The biggest difference between the two is the difficulty, reflected in many different parts of the game. For example, in Doom 2016, ammo is limited, but it's forgiving. You can rely on a handful of favorite weapons and not really be punished for it. Doom Eternal changes that immediately. Ammo reserves are smaller across the entire game, and this isn't an accident. It's a game directly telling you that you are going to need every tool in the Slayer's arsenal to complete this game. Not only does the lower ammo counts mean you will be using the chainsaw a lot more to replenish your ammo, but you will also be using different weapons a lot, because the enemy design basically requires you to do so. They all have more deliberate roles in combat, and more pronounced weak points that require specific strategies to beat, so you actually have to problem solve during combat, and react to specific types and patterns of enemies presented to you. It makes the game a lot more challenging. It's not really just shoot all the demons coming at you anymore. Some require precise shots, others require precise timing. It just adds even more depth to combat, while keeping systems like the health from glory kills to still emphasize the aggressiveness. Movement too is elevated from important to essential in Eternal. Double dashes, wall climbing, these yellow bars, and vertical arena layouts change combat spaces into three-dimensional puzzles. The ground is usually the most dangerous place to be, and survival depends on constant repositioning and flying through the arena, while still balancing shooting demons. And this is really where Eternal earns its reputation for intensity and difficulty. It's faster, and overall just more demanding of the player. It expects spatial awareness, target prioritization, and resource management simultaneously, among many other things. There is very little downtime, and that pressure is exactly what makes the combat loop so addictive, once you get used to it. At launch, the game was a little divisive among players. Lots felt overwhelmed to begin. I know I certainly did for a bit, but over time, Eternal's reputation shifted, mainly because players adapted. Once you've started to play Eternal enough, and its systems and combat start to click, Doom Eternal reveals itself as one of the most mechanically rich shooters ever made. The skill ceiling is dramatically higher than Doom 2016, but mastery is very tangible, and honestly feels a lot more satisfying when you reach it. You don't just feel stronger because you unlocked upgrades or new guns or something, you feel stronger because you actually got better. And once again, this just further drives home the design principle of a power fantasy. It takes a while to reach, but once you've mastered combat, you really will feel like an ultimate demon-killing machine. And that's why Eternal should not just be seen as a sequel, but a refinement of what made Doom 2016 so great. Instead of playing it safe, as Eternal very easily could have done, It fully commits to this new idea of FPS combat once again. It doesn't worry about asking more of the player. It trusts that if you are committed to learning its systems, it will deliver something few shooters ever do. A sense of mastery that feels exhilarating rather than exhausting. And now we arrive at the most recent release, and probably the most odd one. Doom 2016 revived the series in a great way. Doom Eternal took those combat systems and perfected them to create the ultimate blend of power fantasy and speed. So what was the next one supposed to do? It was already proven that Doom isn't stuck in the past. At this point, in my opinion, it has become once again the most notable single-player FPS series. So instead of trying to top the speed and intensity of Doom Eternal, Doom the Dark Ages actually decided to do something pretty unique. First and most obviously, it shifted to fantasy. No more futuristic architecture, now it's more gothic, but still with a lot of advanced technology, and a lot of fresh new guns and tools for the Slayers to use, which I really enjoyed. Secondly, it actually kind of slowed down combat, focusing less on moving around the battlefield and in the air, and more on timing parries and using melee weapons. Don't get me wrong, this is still very much the aggressive and brutal Doom that we all know, but it's very different from the feel of Doom Eternal. And from the beginning, this concept wasn't interesting to a lot of people. I get that Doom Eternal was pretty much as close as we will ever get to a perfect Doom game, but I was actually very excited to see the developers trying something new, instead of just making Doom Eternal again. Not that I ever really expected them to do that. With that being said, it did have some big shoes to fill, and I heard a lot of contending views on the game when it was first announced and started to get shown off. I know I personally was pretty upset to hear they removed the glory kill animations. I already gushed about it in this video, but I do really think this was such a good mechanic that drove home both the engaging gameplay and power fantasy. So to see it removed didn't seem like a great sign, and honestly I can't really say in the end whether it helped or not. If there's one valid complaint about it, it's that it could sometimes be a little bit jarring and slow down the momentum of combat, which I think is the main thing the Dark Ages attempts to fix. Instead of flying through arenas at breakneck speed, combat often becomes more about reading enemy attacks, choosing the right moment to counter, and punishing openings with overwhelming force. After Doom Eternal, simply asking players to move even faster or juggle even more systems would have risked making a, well, honestly just unplayable game. The Dark Ages avoids that by changing what makes the game hard. It trades fast reflexes for more controlled and cinematic brutality. You feel less like a blur and more like an unstoppable juggernaut, carving your way forward through the huge amount of demons through sheer force. And it adds entirely new ways to play, with the large Atlan mechs or dragon sections. I was expecting these to be kind of gimmicky and boring, and I do still think the actual FPS gameplay was still the best part, but honestly they did act as a good break from that normal gameplay. They don't happen very often, but are very well polished when they did, and swapping between the dragon and FPS gameplay was really fun. In the end, I really loved Doom the Dark Ages, despite it being the most divisive one. Honestly, playing it on PS5, where I don't have the precision aiming that I do on my PC that I need for Doom Eternal, I might have even enjoyed it more. I do, however, understand that it might feel like a downgrade to a lot of people from Eternal. The loss of speed and reduced emphasis on FPS gameplay can definitely be disappointing, but I don't think it's trying to be better than Doom Eternal, but just be a new experience that tries to deliver some of the same design concepts, and I get that that might not work for everyone. But either way, the number one thing this game showed me is that this trilogy knows what it's doing. They honestly could have just kept on remaking Doom 2016, but with new levels. But instead, they made it better, then took that better system and changed a lot of interesting things about it to freshen up combat once more. Each game after the next finds a new way to express the same core ideas that have always been a part of Doom, and it is truly incredible that they all managed to turn out so good. As I said, taken individually, each of these games excel, and I think the way that they build and contrast with each other in certain elements make them such a great accomplishment in the gaming space that isn't really talked about that much. The modern Doom trilogy isn't great because it's nostalgic. In fact, I'd say this modern trilogy takes a lot of the ideas from the original Doom games and builds on them to make them better. It's a great series because it's confident in these ideas that were set back when the original Doom came out. It knows what the players want to do in an FPS and how they should feel while playing it, and it builds every system around supporting that vision. In an industry often afraid to take risks or demand anything from the player, the modern Doom trilogy goes against pretty much all of this. Of course, other games have followed suit now that they saw that Doom succeeded, but I still think that these 3 games did it best. And that's why this trilogy isn't just a successful revival, it's one of the best shooter series we've ever seen in the modern era. And hopefully you agree. I'm guessing you do if you watch this far, but either way, let me know your thoughts in the comments below. I've played every Doom game, at least all of the mainline ones, so I'm a huge Doom fan, as you can tell. So to still see this series doing so well in the modern era, it's awesome, and I really just want to make a video to celebrate that. And thank you viewers for watching. I hope you have a great day, and I hope to see you in another one of my videos. Thanks again. Bye.